Why, yes, skeptical optimist. I have indeed seen that Caitlyn Clark was invited by Bianca Belair to the 2025 Royal Rumble at Lucas Oil Stadium and in Indianapolis. For those of you who don't know, I'm a huge pro wrestling fan, so obviously this was a topic that tickled my fancy. It's not a serious one. Caitlyn Clark will not be participating in the Royal Rumble. It is far too physically dangerous. Whatever you think you know about pro wrestling and it being fake, that's a word that wrestlers really hate because they are actually performing what they're doing, even if the outcomes are predetermined. But wrestlers are very good at creating hype, right? And selling a show. Bianca said this on a YouTube channel, on the Comic Book Nation YouTube channel. I'll share the link to that below, as well as the link to the article I wrote on this for Women's Fast Break on SI. But let me play you a function of the of that a function. Did I say function? A clip of that interview from Comic Book Nation. Let's find the part where she's talking about that.
Newly on that bandwagon. I do not claim I was on there from the beginning, but it caught me, so I'm very much in that. Any chance for a team up, so to speak, at Royal Rumble? It's like a perfect chance, right? Caitlyn Clark fever going on.
It's so funny because everybody's already asking that even before the press conference. They're bringing up Caitlin Clark. Listen, I love what's happening with the WNBA. I love that women are getting more spotlight and more attention. I've always said, we don't need to do anything different. We just need the opportunities. We need the media coverage, and the WNBA is doing that. I feel like WWE, we've done a lot of unprecedented things when it comes to women, whether it's women main eventing WrestleManias, women main eventing on a weekly basis at Raws and SmackDowns or PLE. So it would be really cool for the two worlds to combine and have an even bigger impact for women. So Caitlin Clark, if you're watching, come on, join. Come in the Royal Rumble. You can be one of the 30 participants. That's what's exciting about the Royal Rumble, right? You never know what's going to happen. It could be the past, the present, the future, or just someone that you don't expect. So you might see Caitlin Clark 2025 Royal Rumble right here in Indianapolis.
There you go. Good plug from Bianca to try and sell people on that. In case you don't know what the Royal Rumble is, it's an event that the WWE does where 30 entrants come in. Each year there's a men's and a women's Royal Rumble, and there are 30 participants in each of the two events. So one wrestler comes in to start, another wrestler comes in to start, and then I forget what the clock is now, 90 seconds, 2 minutes. Another wrestler comes in after that, and you're eliminated when you're thrown over the top rope of the Royal Rumble. And obviously, that wouldn't make any sense for Caitlyn Clark to participate in anything like that from a physical standpoint, but maybe as a spectator, she would be there because Tyrese Halliburton of the Indiana Pacers is a huge wrestling fan. And obviously, Caitlyn has supported the Pacers, and the Pacers have supported the Fever, and likewise, where back and forth when you're talking about the Indiana connection there. As you can see, Tyrese has this shirt for sale, even Tyrese 317 on the WWE shop. So that's how big a wrestling fan that Halliburton is. I personally am a Bianca Belair fan because not only, like Caitlyn, when Bianca's saying that, it means something because the women in wrestling have also exploded in recent years. So, when I was growing up and watching what was called the Attitude Era back in the day, the women were more featured as like pinup stars and cover girls. There was a woman named Sunny, who I believe was the most searched person in the AOL era. And of course, she was searched for those reasons. But over the years, instead of being dubbed divas, they became true WWE superstars. Bianca Belair included in that mix. And Bianca Belair is like a main eventer on the wrestling stage. Her and Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair and so many other women over there now have occupied that space, and they're on equal footing with the men, to the point where Bianca Belair main evented a night of WrestleMania a few years back. And that is obviously running parallel to what's going on with Caitlyn Clark and women's basketball, where back in the day, if you had told me women's wrestling would ever be on the same level of as men's wrestling, I would have laughed you in your face. And the same thing goes now for women's basketball versus men's basketball. If you had ever told me that the women would outrate the men on the college level as the NCAA championship did, I would have laughed in your face. And if you would have told me that the WNBA, and I would be talking about women's basketball as much as I am, I probably would have laughed in your face. But salute to these women, the women of the WWE, for oftentimes outdoing the men, relatively speaking, on a card. And of course, the women of the hoops game who are now coming up. I mean, I did the live stream about how Paige Beckers might be more famous than anybody, is more famous than anybody in the NBA draft this year. She is. And then Juju Watkins, and obviously Caitlyn Clark, and Angel Reese, and people now going back and learning about Asia Wilson and Diana Taurasi and the other greats and the legends of the game. So it was cool to see Bianca recognize that. And it shows you just how big a star Caitlyn Clark is, right? That question is even asked. By the way, real quick, to add one more thing about Bianca. I once interviewed her for Sports Illustrated, and my daughter, Ronnie, is a big fan of Bianca. I took Ronnie to the Liberty game. Ronnie now says she roots for the Indiana Fever and the New York Liberty. But this is what Bianca had to say to my daughter when I shared that with her. By the way, my daughter is a huge fan of yours. She wanted me to tell you that.
Oh, we'll tell her say hi.
I will. Thank you. And Bianca was. By the way, my daughter is a huge fan of yours. She wanted me to tell you. Bianca was super nice.
We'll tell her say hi.
In that interview and what I did with her there. And, she carries herself in such an exemplary fashion, just like Caitlyn Clark carries herself in such an exemplary fashion. This was just really a way for me to talk about WWE at the same time as I'm talking about Caitlyn Clark. Who knows how many opportunities like that will ever present themselves. But, it's not happening. It's a silly idea. Obviously, Bianca knows by mentioning Caitlyn Clark in that context, it's going to get written up. It's going to get covered like this, and it's going to explode because everything about Caitlyn Clark explodes and goes everywhere. But the, explosion in women's wrestling does have an actual parallel to an extent with the explosion of women's basketball. And with Caitlyn Clark, she's just a star, beyond her peers as well. So she'll get mainstream attention almost no matter what she does, and people are going to use her for the juice.